You know, when I played Marvel Rivals last year, I thought it was absolutely hilarious that some strategists or supports were going on strike because they were getting farmed by like Black Panthers on cooldown, even as like a Cloak and Dagger. And then they had this whole like no peel, no heals kind of movement. And I main supporter, strategist, whatever you want to call it. And I always chalked it up back then to a skill issue because like, you know, years of Overwatch taught me how to deal with Genji and Tracer on my ass all day. But now we have Wizard Hyung, who is a former Overwatch League coach, put out a video that reached the Western audience, aka me, about something called the Mauga mentality. And it says right here that Korean tanks are going on strike, this video right here. I thought today would be a pretty good opportunity to have a discussion, a broad discussion about tanks in the 5v5 Overwatch 2, well, Overwatch format. Tanks are going on strike on the Korean ladder. I'm not gonna play and like do a whole like, you know, 30-minute reaction to the whole thing, but I'll summarize it wherever I can. But yeah, this actually isn't the first time that there's been a movement in Overwatch. I think in 2018, because that's when Brig was released, right? 2018, they had this like whole hashtag delete Brig movement, and all over like social media and in game as well, you would see these players named delete Brig. And sometimes in high elo, you run into like 4 players all named delete Brig. This was when like DPS players did not want to play Goats because Goats was a 3 tank, 3 support meta, and Brig was like, kind of like the catalyst for a lot of it, simply because she was super tanky. Her rally gave a lot of people like crazy amounts of armor that was tucked underneath shield HP. She had a stun every like 6 seconds or 7 seconds on the shield bash. But anyways, back to this video, Mauga mentality. I'm gonna play the first little bit so you get an idea of it, and then we'll kind of summarize and let's discuss the tanks in a broader sense here. So here we go.
Tank players in Korea just started a rebellion. They call it Mauga mentality. Korean tanks are sick and tired of getting blamed every game, sick of being told to self-sacrifice while everyone else plays however they want, sick of being told to switch when DPS and supports refuse to swap themselves. So they stopped. They started picking heroes like Mauga, Roadhog, or Reinhardt, heroes that can ignore the traditional job of protecting the team and just play their own game. To a point where you can see both teams' tank just lock Mauga, walk up, and shoot each other in the face until one of them dies. A gentleman's agreement to make the tank diff impossible. And the message here is pretty clear. You keep saying tank diff? Fine. And let's see what happens when the DPS and supports actually have to prove themselves. And this movement, the Mauga mentality, is so popular in Korea, it's all over the Korean community and Korean YouTube.
That's
and
crazy,
it
by
became
the way.
popular for a reason, because it reveals something about playing tank in Overwatch competitive, especially in Korea. Tanks are tired of being responsible for everything, understood by no one, and getting blamed before anyone else look at their own job. And as someone who played in both regions and also coached professional players from Korea and the West, I think this meme is pointing something worth understanding for every Overwatch player, no matter what role you play.
Wizard Hyung's YouTube channel, we'll link it in the description as well.
Mentality. So when I say Korean tank players started a rebellion, I mean it. I mean the community is treating it like one. I first noticed this while live coaching one of my Korean students. Then I checked Korean Overwatch YouTube and forums, and it was everywhere. Some players call it the tank rights movement, and some people call it the tank union. And the community even gave it visual language of a labor protest, as if they're on full strike. Red headbands, union-style slogans, protest memes, all of that. And that's exactly why Mauga's red headband skin, Sand, became one of the symbols of this whole movement.
What?
The more important part is not the skin, it's the logic behind the protest. When both tanks are doing the same thing, standing there shooting at each other as Mauga in the face, there's no tank diff left to blame. The tank variable is out of the equation, and that's the whole point. The protest forces a conversation onto the roles that usually get to hide behind the tank diff. For once, the DPS and supports have to look at their own job. Did they take good angles? Did they use the free space? And what makes it even more wild is that it's not rare to see both tanks agree to do this. 2 tanks meet in the middle, basically make a peace treaty. Korean tanks were trying to make a statement, even if that meant they were not fully prioritizing winning that specific game. And that's how much the tank players in Korea wanted to make the statement. And also, there's even a joke say, my Q time is shorter than your skill cooldown.
That is crazy.
So instead of trying to deal with the blame and getting mentally checked,
your Q will say less than 1 minute, and then like, I don't know, like a BAP cooldown for support who has the longest Q is like 25 seconds or something.
because the tank Q time is just very short. The role everyone blames
less than a
is
minute.
also the role that's hardest to replace. And to be clear, I'm not saying this is good. If someone queues up and just ruined the game, that's just throwing the game with the slogan. And the fact that this meme spreads like crazy definitely tells you something. A lot of tank players felt this miserable feeling before they had a name for it. And this isn't just my coaching observation. I asked 2 Korean pro players separately. Top Dragon, the DPS player who won OWCS championship.
Okay,
in
so
Japan.
now in the video, I've already seen this a little bit. They go into the interviews here, so let's start the discussion. Like I said, I didn't want to react to the whole thing because it's a little long, of course. Wait, I want to find a good area to pause on right there. Perfect. Okay, so let's talk. In short, if you didn't obviously pick that up, the tanks are kind of just removing themselves from the equation by just both picking Mauga, shooting each other, and trying to make the other players in the lobby kind of show off that they can make the difference because people are tired of being blamed. So I guess this kind of opens the broader discussion of the pain points of tank. I mean, this has always existed ever since we moved to the 5v5 format. Number one, like you said, like they said, it's the burden as a solo tank. Like, it can always feel stressful, despite being Thanos sometimes, right? You do have the largest HP pool, a lot of lethality. I mean, look what a high charge Zarya can do if she gets out of control. Same with Hazard, Orisa, Mauga, especially not in the mirror. But there is a lot of pressure on the tank player to outperform the other tank, and it is the most noticeable by everyone. Clearly, the Korean tanks are at a breaking point here. A bigger issue, I guess, that kind of people kind of see is that probably wasn't discussed, was that even if you have high eliminations, the most damage as a tank, that's not necessarily conducive to wins. You can be like 40 elims, 50 elims, and like 6 deaths on Junker Queen and still lose the game. And I think that's likely because you are playing very selfishly. So tank is my second most played role. And if you're playing really selfishly as a tank, you are drawing a lot of resources from your supports. And sometimes that is not going to allow the other DPS in your team to pop off because now all the supports are stuck pocketing you as the tank. And then what ends up happening is even if you pop off, it feels bad as a tank, right? And then you get blamed anyways. And then if you aren't popping off with high elims and you're like, I don't know, like 15 elims and like 10 deaths on tank, kind of mediocre damage, you'll still get blamed anyways because it's very easy to see with the scoreboard and it still feels bad. Now, maybe this perspective isn't the common one. Like, I personally have the opposite take on 5v5 tank very casually. It is my second most played role after support, like I said. I like feeling like Thanos. I like, you know, feeling like a king with 700 HP, having really close to even better lethality than some DPS heroes, especially on like Hazard or Zarya or Queen and stuff. But I understand where people are coming from. So what can we do to kind of solve this? Well, number one, go play 6v6 open queue. It is growing in popularity, especially on NA servers. If you just boot up Twitch right now and look at the streamers, a lot of them are playing 6v6. This is the thing is, this is mostly only an NA server thing. I'm actually surprised EU and Asia, I think EU it's picking up, but in Asia, especially Korea, they aren't really playing it. And if I had to guess, it's probably because it's not the main format still. Is 6v6 not popular because it's kind of hidden under the guise of open queue? It's not the one directly shoved in your face as the quick play option. It's not the default option. That's part of my line of thinking right now. But yeah, because 5v5 is still the main format, especially if you want to go pro on the Korean ladder, they're super extra sweaty and competitive, right? If you want to go pro, you have to play the main format, which is 5v5. Right? So yeah, no, option number one, go play open queue 6v6 if you want to relive the whole double tank and not feel this kind of burden if that's not your cup of tea. And then I think in the rest of the video here, when they interview Top Dragon here and Kellen, the summary of how to, like, you know, enjoy tank. Oh, this is even a better area to stop. I think I wrote down what they said to paraphrase it. Number one, they said you have to play as if you have no healers. You have to lower your expectations as a tank and play assuming you won't be pocketed by supports. This forces you to play like more calculated, use natural cover a bit more, and play more meaningfully until you make your decisive dives, your decisive engagements, and you have to go secure your own health packs, manage your own HP pool. And unironically, I actually added to this, I wrote that doing this makes you a better overall player. It's more so applies to like the other DPS, for the DPS players watching this and you DPS players, you could benefit from this mindset, to be honest with you. Just being more, managing your own health pack and not just demanding heals all the time, because supports have to manage their resource and who they can prioritize as like the win condition. Number two, I added that you still have to adapt, right? If you are playing the solo tank and you are absolutely smoking the enemy team and you notice your supports, you know, are not getting permanently jumped by the enemy flankers like the Tracers and the Genjis and the Echoes, and you are getting pocketed, you can just press W and go crazy on tank. Number three, on how to pop off as solo tank, you have to play more independently, and that's kind of what Top Dragon and Kellen kind of mentioned more so than anything here. They said you have to play independent tanks. I think they referenced D.Va, who can matrix and keep herself alive, fly to health packs. Similarly, they pick Ball and Doomfist, so they can control the side angles and secure the solo final elimination. Sorry, I have this freaking, my dog fur is floating over here. So you have to play those heroes who can play more independently. They didn't mention Roadhog, but I think Roadhog is another good example where you just kind of do your own thing. And those are the three ways, in short, to help you enjoy the solo tank mentality. We talked about why it sucks. The 5v5 solo tank experience sucks for a lot of people. It's that burden. And even if you are popping off, you still lose. You get blamed a lot, etc., etc. So those were the three. And then we talked about the 3 ways that what you can do as a solo tank to, pop and play and enjoy the role a bit more. But again, I did mention it right at the beginning. Just play 6v6 if you want to play the 2 tank kind of method. And then the last part I kind of wanted to add to this whole discussion piece is that I think the idea of having to play more independently as a solo tank in 5v5, that is probably it is more conducive to saving your mental and like winning more as a solo tank, but it kind of reinforces the lack of team synergy in the game, if you know what I mean, right? Like back in 2017 when everyone was in voice, calming and popping off together, the fact that you have to play more selfishly as a solo tank 5v5 kind of reinforces you or leads you back to that idea of, being at a voice, playing your own game, your own mentality, which kind of sucks because Overwatch has some of the highest highs when everything meshes well together and the vibes in the voice chat were amazing. Everyone's pushing into Hanamura together, syncing up tank play with everybody else. Those are the highs. Those were truly some of the most fun times in the game, at least for me as well. So I guess that kind of opens this, discussion. I just kind of wanted to add my opinion to it and kind of summarize what's happening in Korean Overwatch for those who are kind of uninformed and only watch this and haven't heard about this whole thing. That with the Mauga mentality in Korea, I think it's still going on. People are not happy with 5v5. I kind of want to see Korea kind of just move on to the open queue 6v6 format if they're really tired of it. And maybe you guys, I don't know, my audience here, you guys are, all over the world as well. I assume most of you guys are North American, maybe some EU, maybe some Asia, some Middle East, Antarctica, Mars, wherever. But what do you guys have to say, especially for the tank players here? Again, I mentioned earlier that I personally don't mind the 5v5 tank experience. I actually don't mind either, to be honest with you. I played 6v6 quite a bit the last couple of seasons. I play mostly 5v5 right now, but I might go back to 6v6 later. But I like being Thanos. I like playing Hazard solo tank, like low key. Same with Queen. I just banned Kiriko and I'm having a great time. I actually enjoy Sigma quite a bit. Mine's not the popular opinion, but it is what it is. And then I guess the final thing is people ask me, hey, KarQ, do you like 5v5 or 6v6? Like I just said, I genuinely like both. I have a classic centrist fence sitting option, but I'm serious. Like I actually like both. Like I said, I played 6v6 open queue. I think all of like last summer, all the way till like earlier this year, like literally for 2 straight seasons, 5 months, I played 6v6 only. Then this season specifically, I mostly played 5v5. My goal in 66 was to hit champ. I did that little Mickey Mouse roll. I'm trying to hit champ right now in 5v5, so I want to finish that goal. Then maybe next season I'll go back to 6v6. I like both formats for different reasons. Like we talk about this whole solo tank and Mauga mentality and all this kind of stuff, but 5v5 is genuinely less chaotic, less clutter. Some people say 6v6 is better, and sure it can be better, but it is absolutely crazy with all the shit on the screen. Whenever I play 66, I'm like, dude, alt tracking, how did I used to do this? There's actually just so much going on, especially with modern heroes being added to the pool of 6v6. Like back in the day, alt tracking as a support wasn't too bad, but for some reason it just feels a lot harder now because everything just feels all over the place. 5v5 is more chill, and I just kind of play depending on my mood. Like seriously, in a perfect world, I would like both formats to succeed. The other solution I forgot to mention was people saying just add role queue back in 6v6 and make it the main game mode. But part of the reason why we went to 5v5 was to solve queue times. You know how they just said my queue time is shorter than your cooldown. It would still be relatively short if we had role queue for tanks, but every other role would get the most. It was all over socials as well. I think DPS players were getting like 1 hour plus queues. Same with support players. Like when you solve one problem, you always introduce another one. I think I mentioned this many, many times. That's the quote I live by. You solve the 6v6 queue times by making a 5v5, but then you introduce new problems. Then some people kind of want to go back to the old format, but they kind of forget why we moved away from it in the first place. At least that was one of the few reasons. Sitting in queue and not being able to playing 3 games a night after 3 hours is not really good as well. It's kind of like you have to pick the lesser of 2 evils, and it's been long enough people kind of forgot how that felt. So that's why I think the middle ground, this current open queue 6v6 format without role queue is actually pretty good. I actually think this is the way forward. So everybody can queue together, and then you just have a 2 tank max limitation. That's the current rule, but it is open queue. Anybody can play whatever. And generally when you do play that mode, most people do play 2-2-2. That being said, I think when I queue, sometimes we'd go 2-1-3 with triple support. But it is pretty fun. The only problem is the balance is a little wacky because you're queuing into an open format. People are flexing. Add solutions, introduce new problems. Problem with open queue sometimes with this is you queue in and there's 5 support players on your team. And it's like, well, shoot, now what? And if we do role queue, then we get long queue times. Open queue, we get people on their off rolls, and then the balance feels really wacky. you know, you gotta pick one or the other and commit. And they committed to 5v5 for a while, but are we at that point where we need to go back and try that out again and see how we feel? And this could be something they could experiment with. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'm all ears. I am in the position where like I play the game for fun now. I have some small goals I want to hit, but like I want the most people happy, because guess what? That's conducive to me having a living for myself. I need more people playing Overwatch and watching content. But this is a good discussion piece. Let me know what your thoughts are. And that's it for this video. Take care.